Welcome back, everyone. So I'm bringing back the Walk in Tech series, and I think it's a nice day in spring despite the coronavirus epidemic, or pandemic now. And I've had the Pixel Buds 2020 for about a couple of weeks now, and I think it's as good a time as any to give my initial thoughts as we walk through Central Park. Alright, let's begin. We're here by the fields, where usually there's baseball games and other field activities going on, but kind of quiet today. The rest of the park is actually pretty busy, despite the coronavirus. I guess everyone's trying to find a way to get outside, and this is the best way to do it. Alright, so the first thing I'll start with is the case. It's kind of a matte white finish, feels pretty good in the hand. The earbuds sit pretty well inside the case. It has an indicator light for charging in the middle, and it's very easy to put each of the earbuds in. There's no issues with that at all. They sit very nicely, they don't fall out. I'm not going to shake them while I walk because I can get them to come out if I need to. In terms of the actual battery capacity, each full charge from a case gives you about 24 hours. You can charge up to 2 hours in 5 to 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes for 2 hours of playback. And the earbuds are rated to last up to 5 hours. But I'll get into the battery a little bit later. Okay, so in terms of how they fit in the ear, the earbuds have this little horn, is what I've seen other reviewers call it, that kind of presses up against the inside of your ear and gives you a little bit more stability. You pretty much push these in your ear, rotate down, and the horn kind of does its job. Once they're in your ear, they're really not fatiguing at all. They don't block any outside noise, which I think in a city like New York is positive, especially around now when you really should be aware of your surroundings as you walk around. I have also used them in much more intense conditions. Every morning I run stairs, and I was able to keep these in my ear without having to keep pushing them in a little bit more as I did stairs and sweat profusely. So they don't fall out. They haven't had any issues with the salt, and they work pretty well. For reference, I also used the Jabra Elite 65Ts, the non-active version, and those they would constantly kind of fall out, and I would have to squish them back in my ear with a very unpleasant sound and sensation. In terms of how they connect, so when you open them up, it is a similar process to the AirPods. They actually let you know immediately the charge of the case, the earbuds, and then you can press in for more information on the notification that'll launch you into the Pixel Buds app, which was forced upon everybody who uses a Pixel phone just before the Pixel Buds launched. And you also have the option to pair them with the button on the bottom of the case. I forgot to mention that the case itself charges with USB-C, and it also has Qi wireless charging, or QI wireless charging, however you're used to calling it, but it does support standard wireless charge. Getting into the meat of it, in terms of how they actually sound. The sound quality on these is actually quite nice. I know some of the reviewers have mentioned that there's a lack of bass, and I think initially I did feel that, but they quickly updated to a new firmware, and I don't know if it's subjective or a placebo effect, but it sounds like the bass actually improved. Excuse the lawnmower. Central Park continues to overgrow. Nature won't wait for the coronavirus to end. There's no active noise canceling or cancellation, and I think that's a positive in the city. I'm sure there's environments where it's beneficial, so I do have other earbuds and over-ear headphones that have that functionality, but for general everyday commuting, I think these offer everything I need in the city. They also have a feature called adaptive sound. So the way this, in theory, is supposed to work is like some cars, I think most cars at this point, have the feature where, depending on where your volume is set, it tries to maintain the same level despite how fast you're going. So if you speed up on a highway, usually it gets a little bit harder to hear your music playing or whatever you're listening to on the radio in the car. But it tries to adjust for that by increasing the volume without you having to touch the knob. So relatively, the volume kind of sounds the same to you and normalizes despite how fast you're going. These tout a similar feature. I am actually not sure how well it works. At this point, I set the volume to probably about 85% on the Pixel, and then no matter what I do, it's been sufficient. I haven't been intrigued or tempted to max it out. I usually never do on headphones, but it does seem to be at an overall higher volume level than I would have to put the AirPods Pro, for example. There was one issue with the volume where one day it just wouldn't get to the same level of loudness. And I don't know if it's the adaptive sound kicking in. I just wasn't used to it yet. And I tested it in a noisier environment, but it just wasn't working right. I unpaired them and repaired them, and it seemed to have done better. Again, maybe background noise has changed again, and it referenced that, but it hasn't happened again. And this is like in the first couple of days of owning it, and I've been using them every day since. Of note, this does happen on the AirPods Pro. I've found other reports about that on the internet, but the problem with the AirPods Pro is there's no intrinsic volume control on them, so you can't actually change their volume without using the phone they're connected to. I know there's a way in developer settings to actually uncouple your headset volume from your phone system volume, which can help you raise the volume in certain situations. And I did try it with the Pixel Buds 2020 and it did work. I don't think it's necessary because of the adaptive noise or adaptive sound, so I'm going to keep it coupled and see how it works.
This is a test of the Pixel Buds 2020, leaving a voicemail from a T-Mobile network Pixel 4 XL to a Verizon network iPhone 8.
In terms of the app itself, I put the wide-angle lens on the DJI Osmo just so you could see what it looks like. And currently they're disconnected. You have several options here. You can forget them directly from the app. You can set your Google Assistant settings here. Depending on which responses you have, it just links to your Google Assistant settings. You can find your device in case you dropped an earbud in the couch or aren't sure exactly where it is in your gym bag, it fell out. If they're within range and connected, you should be able to find it. What it does is it gradually increases the ringing of each one until you can find it. I think this is a way to protect your ears in case they're in your ears when you use them and accidentally use this feature. So that's one way to protect yourself from it. The touch controls, they don't really let you change them. They let you see what all the options are. And they're pretty intuitive for swiping forward to raise the volume, backwards to lower the volume, various taps to enable or disable phone connections or end calls. There's no way to mute with these, and you can trigger your assistant by pressing and holding the capacitive buttons. And both earbuds have the same exact controls. One omission which Google may address in future updates is the lack of EQ. That would probably solve a lot of issues people are having with the frequencies that they're hearing. So if it's too neutral for them and they actually like the bass heaviness, you can't do that intrinsically in the app. Google is known to release feature updates, or feature drops as they call them, for the Pixel devices, and they promised this would also occur for the Pixel Buds. So this may happen in the future. The battery is enough. It's not as great as the powerhouses that I have, like the Powerbeats Pro. It seems to be a little bit better on the AirPods Pro when those have noise canceling off. When it's enabled, I think that they're about on par. The issue I've had with the battery is there's been an asymmetric drain of the earbuds. So this day, today's Wednesday, May 20th, this day last week, I used them while doing some documentation on the computer, and then when I went outside, I got the low battery warning on one of them. And I checked the battery, and one had 72%, the other had 15%. So the way the battery controls are supposed to work is each one is supposed to take over the more battery intensive functions, and as they drain, they hand off to the other one. And there's supposedly an algorithm that's supposed to do that. My right one seems to drain first, and it may be related to me taking that one out of the case first, but again, I'm not sure. It's not really a scientific analysis, but that's my anecdotal experience. So overall, I'd say these are actually a pretty great pair of earbuds, and they are a decent answer to Apple's own AirPods for their iPhones. Problem with Google that they've been having is while they have a lot of customizability, a lot of options, there's no uniformity when you want there to be. Yes, the Samsung ecosystem is kind of like that, but Google's own ecosystem has always been lacking, and the Pixel Buds from several years back were just not fun at all. I actually do have those at home, but the way that you have to put them back in the case takes more than 5 seconds, which should never take that long to put any kind of headphones back in their case. And this has been my experience with the Pixel Buds 2020 after about a couple of weeks of use. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.